Hello and welcome to the RWBY podcast. We are back. I am the man of piled stones. I am the liminal sage. I am he who exists between all things. I am the artist formerly known as Mediocrity 4, but now you can call me E.M. Allen. Or you can just keep calling me Mediocrity 4 because it's a lot easier than E.M. Allen.
Wow, Media just doxed himself. Man, that's a real shame right
Hey,
there,
I'm a
though.
published author now. It comes with the territory.
Yeah. Well, we're back for the preseason Ruby podcast because we got some trailers out, and we also have Ice Queendom, which no one in here watched except Media. But it's definitely good to be back. There's a lot of things that have happened since then, and I think Mr. Vintage probably has something to say about it.
No more waifus for me. I have an actual wife now. It's dude.
Nice. Congrats. On behalf of everyone watching this, congrats. Yeah, dude got married in between podcasts. This
You
this is
realize,
like our own post time skip arc.
Yeah.
dude? Not okay. It's the funny thing about this is how long of a gap we've had between Ruby. Not only did I get married, I had my 1 year anniversary since then. I've been married for over a year now.
And we're forgetting about someone, our personal favorite brain damaged Marine.
It's been 200 years. I've been asleep, comatose, in a cryogenic chamber, waiting for the day I would begin to come back to life so that I can complain about the same shit I always complain about. It is I, Coop.
Am I the only one who holds my breath every time he opens his mouth?
No,
No, I do it too. I talk without breathing. It's a cool trick. You got to learn how to do it. It's pretty crazy. Learned it from some old Ethiopian guys. Crazy monks down there, I'm telling you.
Oh yeah, no, I bet. Media, how about you get Ice Queendom out of the way before we get
All
into
right.
Volume 9?
So I did do reviews of Ice Queendom as it was coming out, sorta. And since then, I've not thought about it that much. But this is actually relevant to Volume 9, I think, because Ice Queendom was a really cool idea for like an episode or maybe like a 2 or 3 part episode that they then extended to 9 episodes with 3 episodes just reanimating volume 1 attached to the beginning, and it had like a really bizarre botched release schedule and nobody really knew what was going on.
Give us give us like the quick rundown of the synopsis for any who may have forgotten it.
So after Volume 1 happened, Weiss got infected by a nightmare grim that creates a dream world within her mind where she is a fascist dictator version of herself. And
Based?
everyone shouts Big Nicholas for some reason. And Klein is a bunch of like random servants within her world, and Winter is a dog, a robo dog. I am not making this up, by the way. Whitley's a bat, and it's never explained why. You had to kind of just try to piece it out yourself. But yeah, Ruby goes on a scouting mission to like see what's up and see if she could like pull her out. But Ruby's not strong enough on her own. So then Ruby, Blake, and Yang go in together to try to pull her out of her dream realm. But then that doesn't work. So then they get Jean for some reason, and then chaos happens. There's a bunch of tiny Weisses that then become giant Titan-sized Weisses. Again, I am not making any of this up. And then they have the big fight with the Nightmare Grim and all the like commanders within her fascist army, which includes a giant mecha Nicholas Schnee with multiple arms, and Jean cuts Dream Jacques in half, I think. I might be misremembering that one. And Pyrrha sings "Mirror, Mirror" for some reason at some point. I don't know why she was the one who was given that song, but she was. It happened. But yeah, it was a lot of neat ideas that just got bloated and expanded to 9 episodes. Also, Ren and Nora say "mew" a lot, like mew, like cats, I guess.
I mean, that's it's not a commonly understood thing, but a lot of people focus on the sort of how they make all these live action anime adaptations and they're always absolute shit. And not many people realize that the same thing happens in reverse all the time. The Anne of Green Gables anime is not Anne of Green Gables at all, almost.
Thanks for reminding me that existed.
Yeah.
I was today years old when that existed.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that was a thing, though, but it sounded like Ice Queendom was a quote-unquote fever dream that just
It kind of
happened.
was.
Hmm.
It kind of was.
Based on the trailer that we saw, because I did at least watch the trailer for season 9, that sounds kind of like what season 9 might be a bit like.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's so
bizarre that like Volume 9 or Volume 8 ended off with Ruby stuck in the whatever world. And then we don't hear anything about Volume 9 for so long. And then Ice Queendom comes out and it's this weird, bizarre, like JoJo episode stretched out to 12 episodes. And then Volume 9's trailer comes out and it's just more fever dream nonsense.
Yeah, they're in Hollow Earth, so Sphere Cucks BTFO'd, and Flat Earthers also BTFO'd because they're in the Hollow Earth.
You can have a hollow flat thing, there's
Yeah, that's lasagna,
yeah.
or layer cake Earth.
Lasagna Earth.
I'm pretty sure layer cake has stuff inside it, but yeah, pretty much.
But
Swiss cheese Earth.
So I will say this right now just to kind of like preface. There was the old saying in like the RWBY community, which was kind of like kicked around for a while, especially after fuck, now his name escapes me. Monty Ohm's death. How everyone was like, oh, how are they gonna know what's gonna happen now since he's not there? It's like, oh, don't worry, it was all written down in his cookbook. This volume right here, anyone who claims to be like, oh yeah, like this was all planned, it's like, oh, sir, you dropped your crack pipe. Here you go there, pal. Karis?
Yeah,
I mean,
like
I'm kind of.
You go on.
We got to work the kinks out
back
of
to
the wall.
the cast.
Yeah,
Awkward.
it's been a while.
Their shit. It's good to be back, right? No, it's like I'm hyped for it because at least they're coming up with an idea. Like I don't know if it's going to be well executed. The thing is, it could seem really cool in the trailer and be complete bullshit. Like, what was the movie with fucking Jared Leto Joker? Like everybody was hyped when they saw the trailer and the movie turned shit, right? Which could definitely happen for this, but I like that they're trying to go for like an interesting idea and doing something different and shaking up the show somehow. I even kind of like that. Honestly, I haven't seen anybody besides in the trailer, correct me if I'm wrong, it's just the main 4, right?
Main 4
Yes.
plus John and Neo. But
Yeah,
they like
I don't
barely
recall
show up.
Jean. Yeah, I don't recall Jean unless that like armored figure ends up being him. But Neo is in like 2 seconds of the trailer.
Yeah. But I like that. I like that. No, I'm not saying that's a guarantee that we're only gonna get the main 4 and Neo for the whole season. That's probably not gonna happen. But if they at least focus on them for like a while, I appreciate that. Even though at this point the only thing I care about is Renora, which is now practically dead to me because fuck them for what they did. Still, what about that? Not that I've thought about in the last 2 years, but now that I'm back and thinking about it, fuck them. But I still like that at least they're going to focus on that weirdness for a while and hopefully flush that out.
What, you don't like that what is she now, like 18-year-old girl decided that she wanted to be the 30-year-old girl who has to go find herself, quote unquote?
Yes, which makes absolutely no sense with her character because that already happened previously in the show. They already demonstrated that she's gotten over her fears. That literally was what made the Kuroyuri arc so. Yeah, let's just do that again. Let's have that come out of nowhere. That Nora has no self-confidence.
Hey, they can always twist it back around. They do like some type of time skip thing, get it to where that she's hit the wall, come crawling back to Rin, who in his misery decided to chat it up and pick up several girls that are all way hotter than her in the interim, and now he's finally settled down and married to a different one and can't take her back. Give it the old real world treatment, the full on.
Oh, but yeah, I'll say this to me with the trailers that have come out and like the little 4 to 7 minute, like vertical slice that we got. To me, this is the soft reboot of the series. If they wanted to wrap this series up within the next within 3 volumes, including this one, they probably looked at the numbers and they were like, you know what? Let's just try to wrap this up. So I think that's probably what's going to happen with this volume is they're going to find a way to just get this all wrapped up. Oh, look, and Robert's here.
Hey guys, sorry I'm late. Just got off work. So.
What's up, man?
Yep.
Hey.
So
we're just talking about the trailer.
Well, hold up. Let him properly introduce himself again, so as to let people know what's been up with him.
Yeah, it's been like 12
honestly,
years.
Only 2.
Decades.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm Robert. So yeah, just been mostly just working these last 2 years, and helping media proofread his book. So yeah, they're really good, and the next one's going to be really good too. So, yeah, look forward to that. And other than that, trying to do a little writing of my own, but that's been kind of off and on. So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's more or less what's been going on. So yeah, not a lot to say over the last 2 years.
So I had this thought while you were while you were rambling about the main 4. This I almost feel like there's a limit to how much this volume is going to matter to the overarching plot, because it is the main 4, but it's also that they're away from Remnant, they're away from the plot. Like this feels like the setup of, like I kind of said at the outset, it feels like the premise for like a single episode or a single chunk of a volume. And I'm because in the past the trailers have only shown like the first 3 to 4 episodes of a volume. I'm wondering if they're even going to spend all volume in here, because I'm kind of skimming through the video to double check. I'm pretty sure Salem is shown in the trailer for like a split second.
So do we know that? I'm thinking that could be a
hallucination of some kind.
Could be like a flashback.
Yeah,
hallucination or like a flashback. But you are right. It feels weird to have like a 10 episode long like belly of the beast type of deal, which I'm assuming is what's going to be going on here. Is at least part of this, but it does feel kind of weird to try and cram all of that, or to try and not cram it all, but to try and spread all of that out over 10 episodes there. So it is the question of like, how long are they going to be in this, Wonderland area, and how long are they going to, when and how long are they going to spend back in Remnant, basically?
I mean, I like the idea, what they're going for. Like I said, I don't know if they're going to pull it off, but I like it. But I also don't feel like it needs to be the whole volume. And I kind of remember the
Yeah.
trailer always shows a little bit. So if it's, 3 to 4, maybe 5 episodes, I'm cool with that. It's because I'd rather them do that well than try to stretch it out.
I mean,
And
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you guys exactly what they're not going to do because I already know they're not going to do it because it seems like the thing that they would do with it if they were going by form of like good planning or anything. But if they do 4 episodes, like one each for each of the girls, where they come face to face with some sort of inner demon or subconscious thing that was like holding them back previously, none of which any of them have. They have pretty much actually solved almost all of their problems already, thereby making this sort of little journey into a weird dream world kind of a bad timed thing for them to have at this point. But they could do that and kind of get away with it probably by shoehorning in some new issue we didn't know they had yet. Do that, have them all overcome their weird little internal navel gazy thing, get out of the dream world via that, find out what exactly it is, unless they like cut back and forth between their and reality. I don't know if they'll do that. They could always.
I'm kind of hoping not.
I swear to God, if they end up finding one of the relics inside of this dream world, it's like, oh yeah, that's where we hid one of the 4 relics was like in
The
this,
relic of choice.
Yeah, the
one that
relic
was
of
supposed to be
choice.
a beacon.
Yeah. They're like, yeah, that's we hid it here, guys. So
Yeah,
I think that would be satisfying. I think that would be a satisfying way to bring that relic into the thing, and it would also help kind of validate this whole Wonderland excursions purpose.
That is not just entirely in their head. It was actually part of Ozpin's plan. I guess, yeah.
I don't like making
an interesting twist.
I don't even know. It doesn't even have to necessarily be part of anyone's plan. It could just be Team RWBY got lucky that this was how Adonis decided to make the realm between realms.
Yeah, like
but
it could.
When you're writing fantasy, you have some wiggle room to put some fate in there, some destiny.
Yeah,
some happenstance helping out the plot a little bit.
And I hate like making comparisons to like other media, but it could even be too. It's like, oh, the relic of choice is testing the person that it's about to be like taken hold of. All the soul stones. You got to throw what's her name off the cliff so you can get it.
I mean, that would be within realms of things that could be ripped off. I don't know. It's
I mean, I don't think it would be bad. It's like, oh well, like the relic of choice is so dangerous. It's like someone somewhere along the line was like, okay, well let's just like throw it into this pocket. Let's just throw it into Hollow Earth, and no one will get it there.
Oh no, they'll figure out a way to make it bad. Don't worry about that part. That's.
Yeah, I'm thinking that, or in response to what Coop was talking about, it looks like they're at the very least aiming towards RWBY getting a kind of, or having to kind of take a long, hard look at herself, which they have, to be fair, they haven't really done that with her. It's mostly been, for better or worse, that, RWBY always makes the right choices, even when she maybe doesn't necessarily, or when her choices could maybe, stand to be questioned a little bit more, reconsidered a little bit more.
The thing with that is that
looks like
they could only ever be questioned outside of the frame of the story by people like us that look at them.
Yeah, random internet autists, because only
within it nobody ever questions it. So they would have to basically within that frame make up a new thing for her to have as a flaw that they didn't have for her before, essentially, and say that she always had it pretty much.
Because Ruby's like what, like 17, 18 now? It's like
you mean like you did for Nora?
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, so that is exactly what
Please
they're gonna
no.
do. They're gonna pull something out of their butt, which is
the
bizarre because like I think if you look at those first few volumes, Ruby does have a pretty fleshed out personality. It's just a lot of the drama, a lot of the conflict, the stakes haven't really involved her. Not until like not until volume 7.
And in the
And
case
then
they
even that was
started,
kind of like hand waved a little bit in volume 8, where like it wasn't so much because of her, it was just she took a stance that her teammates didn't agree with, but there wasn't a whole lot of conflict there. They didn't really get a whole lot
need
of
to really prove
moments
herself.
to they weren't allowed to like really butt heads because so much was going on and they spent so much of volume 8 separated from each other that they just didn't really have that moment. And what conflict was there was resolved by the end when it became once again an extrinsic threat rather than the internal conflict of Team RWBY or RWBY as a character. It went right back to Team RWBY versus Salem and her cronies.
I wouldn't even
And
say it was really resolved. It just sort of faded out.
ended.
Stopped being.
Yeah.
There wasn't really any. It didn't really go anywhere, and they just kind of came back together and never addressed it. Almost, if I recall.
Yeah.
Admittedly, I haven't watched the last fucking volume for a little while now.
Yeah, it's been like 12 years since the last volume.
Yeah.
And
Like
they do
it definitely got resolved. It definitely got resolved, but there wasn't much to resolve.
Yeah, I mean,
because the gang basically gave up the argument. And if they
As
wanted
she
to,
should.
it would feel like backtracking if they did, but if they wanted to, they could maybe try and revisit whether or not Ruby really made the right choices in volume 7 and volume 8, because you look at how things ended up, like Penny died anyway, Atlas fell from the sky, a lot of people died, and they're now stuck in this, weird pocket
They're now
dimension.
stuck in the
So
Shadow Realm.
so if they wanted to it would feel like backtracking, but maybe that's the best thing for them to do, right?
I mean,
it's never the best thing to do, but if they wanted to try and run some damage control and actually, explore, some moral gray areas here, and actually be introspective and stuff like that, which is a big if, I know, but if they did, they could take a look at this and question that. But right now, like in the trailers, all we've got is this question of who are you, which is such a stupid, vague question that just doesn't make any sense and just doesn't really explain, doesn't really give us anything.
I think it's a problem for the exact opposite reason. It's so simple. It's like English 1, like freshman year in high school level literary analysis. Who are you? Like that's such a basic. That's the kind of question that should have been asked back in like volume 2 or 3.
Yeah,
Not
it's just
volume 9.
it's such a dumb question. It's basically, I'm glad we brought up Nora, because it's basically that same random question that really just means we haven't thought out this character very well, and we don't understand why people like her. Sorry, it looks like you're trying to say something, dude. Go ahead.
They already had thought out the character. They did know why people like her, and then that new writer came along and then changed her. That was the issue.
Or that,
And I would, because what I said before you got here was like, Nora doesn't need a crisis of character because they already did that arc actually with her and Ren as little kids in Kuroyuri. They already did that. You heard them doing against Stupid. And so based on that, like, I would rather them go back and retread disagreement with Ruby's decisions, even if that's going backwards. And even though, as media said, it was technically resolved, I would rather them do that than try to retcon some character flaws into Ruby like they did with Nora, because that's way worse. If we got to pick between the two, I would rather them just retread that argument back up
Well,
instead of issues with RWBY that are not there.
I think my statement of like this volume being a soft reboot probably gives the most fertile ground if, they want to like take the mirror and like hold it up to RWBY, be like, look, it's you, like soy face pointing at like RWBY in the mirror.
Yeah.
And so
maybe this is just the Captain America fanboy in me. They really should read some Captain America, or should have read Captain America, because like at face value, RWBY is a similar type of character and is handled in a very similar way to a lot of Captain America runs. Like, one of the interesting things about Captain America when he was brought back as part of the Avengers was that like he had the leadership duties kind of just dropped on his lap, and he's like, sir, I basically just time traveled 20 to 90 years into the future, depending on when this book is coming out. Can I have a moment to just catch up first before you? And Iron Man's like, no, you're an actual soldier. You have leadership abilities. We're just a bunch of jackasses in fancy suits. You're a natural leader. And Captain America's like, I know I have Captain in my name, but you realize that I haven't really done a whole lot of like. Captain America just sounds cool, right? Remember? And there's a lot of really cool Captain America stories where he has to wrestle with his place within the Marvel universe, and wrestle with the fact that everyone does look up to him, that he is this like idealized war hero. And for Volume 9 specifically, and this whole thing is just kind of fresh in my mind because I said it on Twitter, but I'm actually going back through my Captain America backlogs that I've collected over the years, and actually sitting down and reading them. One of the arcs written by Mark Waid had a villain called Nightmare, who's an old Doctor Strange villain, use Captain America's position as this embodiment of the American dream to basically take over the world, because he's able to control people's dreams and nightmares and stuff. And it's this really weird, bizarre, batshit story that when you think about it for too long, it doesn't make any sense, but it's all like just, it serves the purpose of challenging Captain America, Steve Rogers' place as like, yeah, you are, whether you want to be leader or not, you are seen as this leader amongst your community, the hero community, or in RWBY's case, the Huntsman community. And the arcs that followed up the American Nightmare storyline hammered that point home more and more, and just slowly wore him down until he eventually gave up being Captain America and then got shot, and comic book shenanigans happened. He came back like 3 different times after that. God, I hate comics, but I also love them. It really is an abusive relationship, guys. Don't get into comics.
Or if you
Too late.
do, you can get into some weird ones like Judge Dredd. That's always a good one. Never really goes wrong except until like eventually late.
Eventually, it does.
I stick with manga instead. That's slightly less abusive because I always double check that the characters actually get together before I read it. Also, shout out shout outs to Coop. Tomo-chan finally got a fucking anime in between.
Oh yeah, I haven't watched that yet.
Oh yes, embrace tomboy supremacy.
Man, that's right. Like Tomo-chan, Kaguya Season 3, and Shikimori all came out around the same time. As like, yes, this is the time for soft boys to be stepped on.
I got into Kaguya-sama, read the manga, just got past didn't even watch the anime. I got bored of it. Read the entire manga and finished it because it's now done in the time between fucking seasons of RWBY. Great manga. Coop and I have actually discussed the issues with it by the end, but still like narrative.
I forget what
good.
What was it that I said about that? Because I don't even recall, because I read it twice and I I don't know. I don't really think it had anything all that wrong with it. Kaguya I dropped in like the middle because they wrapped it up. But
Yeah.
like well, this is kind of a long ass tangent anyway. Back to the original topic of
Yeah.
discussion. Uh
So
insofar as like the whole Ruby being Captain America, like so many of these proposed changes, and I'm not trying to like dump on you guys or anything. I love y'all,
it's okay.
but it were it's like I said before. You almost need to change up the entire framework of the show at this point in order to get any of these proposals through in a way that makes any sense within it. And I know it seems to the outside observer that there is no consistent internal logic to this thing, and they could just change that up, but I'm not so sure. I'm not so certain anymore that that's the case. I'm wondering if it's merely a sort of internal view of itself that is not able to be understood by us. Doesn't necessarily make it good. It's still bad, but it has some sort of kind of self identity that is just like very erratic, that does but has certain things about it that it keeps consistent above all others that don't necessarily need to be kept consistent, that they could change. Like it changes the things it shouldn't, and it keeps constant the things that it should kind of morph around a little bit, it seems like.
So if I'm putting words in your mouth here, I'm sorry and I apologize and feel free to
Go right
correct
ahead.
me
I
on this.
barely have any words.
But I'm thinking what you're maybe trying to say here is essentially this is a show written by some pretty hardcore liberals, and for it to work in the way that we're suggesting here, it would require them to take a look at themselves and realize that liberals aren't always right and don't always have like the right way of thinking things, and therefore their heroes aren't always right, because that was kind of the big problem that they ran into with Ironwood, is that he couldn't be against Team RWBY and still be a well-meaning individual. He had to be a villain. And so for RWBY to take a moment to be introspective and think about herself and take another look at herself, even if she ultimately decides that she was right about, certain things, like deciding not to go along with Ironwood's plan to, run off with Atlas, that would require them to see things from a conservative point of view, which they might not be willing to do. Is that maybe
I
kind of
don't.
what you were saying, or
I don't really care about liberalism versus conservatism or
okay,
whatever.
fair enough. But
In regards to this, I don't think that that's something that's that
Yeah,
needs
I don't
to
really
be.
think that's too much of a case like either. I think it's just,
okay.
like how they do like I'm not saying you're like wrong or right. I think it's
What
more just like how they
there's
do
there,
like how the writing is done.
here's the thing. So I will say you are mostly right. If we're to look at the morals of the thing, how does the typical for the framework of like a story that's attempting to evoke a certain moral, you have the character be sort of the audience proxy for the moral, and sometimes you can get away with doing it in a kind of weirder way. Oftentimes that's the basic sort of division between the classical comedy and tragedy, wherein in the comedy the the moral of the story is learned by your main character, and thus he comes out with the good ending to things because he has learned it. Whereas in the tragedy, the character comes out with the bad ending because he is unable to fully accept the moral that the story is trying to portray. In this, it sort of puts the cart before the horse in that
So Ruby's already figured out the moral, and
the moral has been figured out by Ruby, and whether the comic or the tragic end comes is apparently just sort of up to writer diktat at that point.
Okay.
So like,
Yeah.
Ruby is right, she did all the right things and she wins, or Ruby is right, she did all the right things and she loses.
Because
Yeah.
everything sucks anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, because you
Okay,
can
I see
do all
what
the
you're
right,
saying,
because that's, you know, one thing that you have to kind of understand in life growing up too, is like, you could do like all of the right things and still have like a bad outcome.
Well,
So, or even have good intentions but still have a bad outcome. So
and
it's
that's
like,
which is that is something that you can do. I think in terms of like that being the sort of when you do that as being the tragic thing, usually the character's tragedy in that is that they sort of did not realize that themselves. They sort of they wind up kind of railing against it, being like, I did everything right. Why did this happen to me? And then so like generally when you put like a story like that, you either the moral actually changes. So the moral is sometimes you have to accept that you can't change things on your own, no matter how well you do, and you basically at that point have to take a stoic approach to it if there's nothing you could have done otherwise about it.
you bought the ticket,
Or
now you got to take the
Probably not
ride.
the direction this is going in.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
and or you have the tragic end to that, which like the stoic approach was actually oddly enough the comic end to a very tragic tale in a weird way. Like again going off of the classic sort of framework of it, and then of course the tragic end is be like you can't possibly accept it, and you wind up just not being able to sort of deal with that kind of the inevitability of it or whatever. RWBY, I think, RWBY, I don't think does either. Really, it's more like if we're talking about the show or the character itself, they kind of just sort of skirt around either of those a lot of times, and sometimes they do occasionally address it, but it's a lot of times it's just sort of waved off and they just kind of go past it, almost as though some of the stuff never happened.
Yeah,
So they
I think
kind of just
It's not really a discussion or an issue if Ruby is right. It's like the entire show basically goes through the motions. This is one of the few consistencies throughout the show, is that Ruby is always right, basically. Like that's just kind of a consistent thing.
Yes,
yeah.
and even and in the
It's a given. You were supposed to assume that.
yeah, it's not, and I guess you could say that she sort of in that way kind of like does take a sort of stoic approach to the uncontrollable, weirdly. So that's sort of like disagreeing with my own previous point in a weird way.
Yeah.
Like that's certainly a valid interpretation of it, and in that case, my next thing that I would do in this weird debate I seem to be having with myself right now is say that they kind of overuse that maybe a little bit, that happens a little bit too frequently.
Yes.
But that's again, that's sort of just at that point, just like, what do you feel is too frequent, and everybody can have
I wonder if like
Right.
one or two of the, because like I think we should definitely consider like the circumstances under which this volume was created, because this volume has had the most time in the oven, and that's not necessarily a good thing because
well,
like the guys and gals who are doing the animation and work on it were working from home from my understanding, and they were working from home where like
For
you
a
had
lot
to.
of it, yeah.
Yeah, they were working from home at a time where you had to like go to a computer store with a gun and kill someone to get a graphics card. So, um,
Yeah.
and now they probably
Plus,
like
going
they
with
probably
the
farmed a lot of that.
constant
Yeah,
going on at Rooster Teeth. Like, does Rooster Teeth even exist really anymore? I mean, once they lose Ruby, do they even have a reason to?
Oh, that's a whole nother can of worms.
yeah,
So
that's a whole
I have
That's
been
yeah.
I have been trying for the past year to figure out what is going on at Warner Brothers. Nobody seems to know. Like who they like got bought out by Discovery, or they bought out Discovery and they combined with Discovery, and HBO Max was gone and then it came back, and they canceled a bunch of stuff, but they're not canceling other stuff, and
Then they're
they're
airing
canceling all
RWBY
these
exclusively on Crunchyroll. Yeah.
that part.
That makes sense
Well,
to
yeah,
a degree.
I understand. I understand they're trying to make. I understand. Yeah, they need to make money off of this, and so they can't just hand it out for free a week later. I understand that, even though it's probably going to piss a lot of people off. But
Well, it'll
I
be
do
for
understand
free
that, but it is.
on Crunchyroll like 1 week after, probably. You just have to watch, the
They
ads.
well, okay. So the thing about that is that Crunchyroll is just a much larger platform, and
Yeah.
so they want to do the classic cable thing of like attaching these less successful shows to the backs of more successful shows. So like, One Piece has been fire lately. The One Piece anime has been like just top notch lately. In about 10 weeks, around the time that RWBY Volume 9 starts, the anime for One Piece is going to reach a certain moment that is going to light the internet on fire when it gets animated, because it lit the internet on fire when it was first shown in the manga, and the animation has some pretty big shoes to fill. So a lot of people, millions and millions of people, are going to watch those episodes of One Piece and then get bombarded by RWBY ads.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, yeah.
They're gonna watch RWBY.
Gotcha.
Like that.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
that's the classic thing. That's the classic internet algorithm thing, and it's very similar to how cable shows and before cable network television shows would do when a show was failing, they would just have it play right after the Cosby Show. Or in the 2000s it was Two and a Half Men, or in the late 2000s it was Big Bang Theory or CSI. Like these big successful everyone knows them shows, whatever came out or whatever came on right after that ended would be the show that they were trying to really push and promote to get its own
Okay.
more dedicated time slot.
Well, I mean, I can point out the little flaw in that business model right now. These are the days of network TV when the shows were assigned a particular schedule we're talking about. Now, in the days of streaming services, the schedule is assigned by the customer, and he can watch whatever he wants whenever he wants. Why would I watch an episode of RWBY, regardless of how many advertisements I've seen spurted all over my screen for it, when I could watch literally anything else on that same platform that's giving me those advertisements?
Maybe, yeah.
And that is absolutely right, and that's why I feel like TV studios haven't quite fully adapted to the streaming setup. I feel like some studios maybe understand it, but every time I think a studio understands it, they do something that just baffles me.
Oh, yeah, like,
Yeah.
I mean, if the
You
Sci-Fi Channel
really
was
don't-
still around, like, RWBY would be on the Sci-Fi Channel.
Like, you can definitely
Yeah.
tell. The funny thing about it is, like, you're absolutely right, media, because there's recent proof. Even Netflix, who are literally a fucking streaming only platform, they didn't like adapt from something else really. They were always like a video service / streaming platform. Even they still don't understand their own fucking business model, because they released Wednesday and they had no idea that show was going to blow up like it did. And even when it did, they still waited forever to actually announce that they were even going to do a second season. They had to fucking scramble to even announce a fucking second season, which didn't get announced for like 3 months after the show came out. Which, if they knew what they were doing, they would have already been on that. Like, yeah, that's how you know they have no idea what the fuck they're doing. Because they had no idea that was going to hit.
Well, yeah, like
Yeah.
like even to like their metric for like results, like they don't even know like like look at the Castlevania series too. I mean, we're getting a third season of that, but like who knows after that?
Well, I
I
personally
think we're
wouldn't.
getting a 5th season.
Like
Or kind of a split off from
it
but yeah.
used to be like like no, for an example, like what was it like within the first week that Arcane dropped, there was like an ad, there was an article. It's like, oh yeah, no, it's like the second season has already been greenlit. It's like it'll be done in like 3.5 years. So and like because of like how much of a hit it was. And also too, like Tencent has just got like endless amounts of money along with Riot. So, but
They
there's
can,
that.
like,
To bring it back to RWBY though, I feel like definitely like we could
Yeah.
talk about this as like a good way to kind of wind down the conversation is like I don't want to say we're doing predictions per se, but like asks for the like this current volume, like what are like simple things that this season could do.
There is one thing I want to kind of ask before we get into that, and it kind of ties in with the production. Maybe this is very much a pandemic era production, even though it's coming out, post pandemic. What do you guys think of the art and animation? Because I've heard a lot of negative opinions about it, and I think it's okay.
I mean, so far all we've really seen are like a bunch of kind of flashes of images. I don't feel like we've seen any images that lasted more than like 5 seconds. It's kind of just like
there was the 4-minute clip.
initial. That's true.
There's a
So we
4-minute
got
clip
that.
that they released a while
Yeah.
ago.
And that was and so that you're right about that. That one little clip that we got was okay. So yeah. And I mean, it's a weird kind of fantasy world and stuff like that. So the animation is definitely going to be,
Absurd.
different and stuff like that. They're going to be, it's going to be pretty. It's obviously going to be pretty trippy. We already got that little thing of like, that cat saying, I hear a butt coming, and then his, hind end catches up to him and like reconnects to him.
That's some good visual humor right there. Whoever came up with
Yeah.
that line, they deserve a raise. That was good visual
Yeah, it's
humor.
just
So that was kind of
this is art-wise, this is very clearly a departure for the series. But animation-wise, I don't see any difference. I don't see any difference with the kind of herky-jerky movements of the mouse and with RWBY. I don't see any difference between that and what we were getting in volume 6, 7, and 8.
I mean, if
I'm
this is,
not an animation. I'm not a big animation guy, so I didn't notice a whole lot. So
Yeah, it feels the same. So like, I can't say anything to it.
if this is like going to be some sort of, I mean, I understand this right. This is has become a Crunchyroll exclusive thing or something, basically. The Crunchyroll's video player is also notoriously bad. I think everybody.
It's awful.
Yeah, and if
So you think they're compensating for that?
well, here's
Or you think it's Crunchyroll's fault that he looks janky?
No. Well, the trailer that was just put up by them themselves. So not only do they have their own animation might possibly be a little bit jerky, you have the extreme frame rate issues that Crunchyroll's video player suffers from, at least in my experience. I very rarely care how well something is animated, but if it's to a point where it's like kind of
If it's really bad, you notice.
Yeah, outright painful to look at, kind of. It's not something that'll prevent me from forcing myself through it, but
You'll notice and you'll rant about it.
Nah, not really. I don't
I
really
mean,
like them.
well, who knows
Here's-
too? If like all the new, new and old people too, there might be some star animators or whatever that are gonna be there to.
I mean,
know,
that could well
it-
be the case.
it's-
Here's the
I
thing.
mean, with the
It's
reputation
hard
they've
to
gotten
even
themselves-
like judge or consider this until like we actually are at the end of the season to be like, oh, the animation quality went up, down, or it's sideways. Are we
Wait,
buying?
so
Yeah.
we're actually complaining about the animation in the trailer? Because I personally didn't really notice anything because, I mean,
Well,
RWBY's
people were
animation is-
complaining about it.
I don't watch RWBY for good quality animation. Let's be real here, okay? And
Never
I mean,
have, never will.
that's the only reason I'm going to watch this season of RWBY anyway, so I can fucking hang out with you guys and talk about it.
That
at
is
this
also,
point.
Yay!
that is also the case, yeah.
But,
But-
even with that, it's like I don't know. I'm not one of those. Like I watch a lot of movies and TV shows and stuff like that, and I don't really notice animation unless it's like really good. Like when I watch Kyoto Animation and they do an amazing job, like with their ridiculous, like Dragon Maid is really well animated, especially season 1
Yeah.
when they do all crazy shit. You notice that. Nichijou, same thing, also Kyoto Animation. I'm watching Bocchi the Rock right now, which I'm really enjoying so far, but they kind of do a similar like Kyoto Animation style humor where they basically, honestly, Bocchi the Rock is like they combined K-On with like Kyoto Animation basically, but they're not doing it as well. But I don't care because it's still enjoyable. You know what I mean? Like I don't notice the animation that much. I didn't
Dude.
like Spider-Verse as much as everybody else loves Spider-Verse because yes, the animation was amazing, but like other than that, like the movie was good, but it wasn't amazing plot-wise. So like I care about plot first, so I don't give a shit. Like as long as it's watchable, like who fucking cares? Like
As long as it's not a
Yeah.
PowerPoint that we're watching.
Dude,
Ceiling-
that's the yin to my yang, in that he only cares about the animation when it's good, and I only care about it when it's bad.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. Like
I
it's always a good bonus if it looks good.
yeah. I think I'm decent at knowing when at noticing when the animation is really good, and I think I'm pretty good at noticing when it's bad or janky and stuff like that. But other than that, I'm just like, eh.
I'm see. Maybe this is because I watched way too much Dragon Ball as a kid. I'm a lot better like picking out when animation is repeated. That's what I end up noticing.
Well, here's the
Yeah.
thing: is that I think they should be a little bit more shortcutty with their animation. Like that's a lot of the thing that is kind of messed up with a lot of modern animation is they don't know how to properly cheat their way through a lot of the stuff. Sometimes, like taking those shortcuts is a perfectly fine thing to do, so you can focus your efforts on something that's actually more important in the show, rather than having to scrounge up all of the guys in the animation department to like make one fern look good. You could just have the same background you reused multiple times so that you could actually make some of the fight
Volume
scenes
4
better.
did that. Volume
no,
4
that's
did that to good effect. Like the block of like road with the trees and the cliffside, they used that for like 4 different scenes throughout Volume 4, just from different angles with different lighting.
Yeah, perfectly fine. And in
Gotta
3D,
to be
you
more
can,
economic with it. Yeah.
well, in
Look
three,
back
if
at
you've
that was
got
one
like,
of these best seasons.
yeah, if you got like a 3D modeled background, that is a very easy trick you can pull with that, presumably. Where if you've already got basically the entire landscape rendered, you just show it from different angles and boom, you've got basically a different landscape from each angle. That's,
Yeah.
Yeah, just grab the camera with the mouse and pan it over somewhere else. It's no big deal. But
It's
I-
not necessary because, like,
Which-
RWBY, the whole problem, one of the biggest problems RWBY had in its first 2 volumes, was it was a style over substance show.
Yeah.
And then volume 3,
I don't
especially volume 4, like, a lot of the original fans, remember, we were like the one group that actually liked volume 4 more than the other volumes. It's like, hey, this show actually has substance now, and it's not just
Yeah.
flash. They start recycling animation. Like, who gives a fuck? The plot actually is interesting now.
yeah, and then
Like,
they decided
take-
that substance was going to be bad and take priority over all of the cool style that we all got into it for in the first place, and we were like, okay, yeah, actually we were wrong. We wish they would go back to the way it was the first times
Volume
around.
Volume 5 was a dark time, man. It was a dark time in all of our lives.
Oh god.
Yeah.
I think I
Yeah.
that's whenever we started doing
Can't
the
remember
face
what
cameras,
year was that.
right? Like we had that's whenever we
I think we did that for a little bit in Volume 5.
yeah.
I know we definitely
Yeah.
did it in Volume 6 because we had Raymond on for one of those podcasts.
Yeah, we had Raymond on. But yeah, let's do like a quick little just talk about,
Predictions or wish lists?
I would say any
Expectations.
expectations or just things you think that would make the volume would be good. So
Let's see who we're going in for this. Who's going first? Who's going second? Let's figure that out.
we'll just do the Discord order. So that means dude gets to go first.
Wait, what are we doing?
We're doing just expectations / predictions or wants and needs for
Who am I
the
after?
episode.
I can't see it driving. You gotta tell me who I'm after.
Yeah, no, you go first.
Oh, I'm first?
Yeah, you're first.
So you said, okay, expectations and hopes?
Yeah, just wants and needs. What is the episode? What does the volume need, and what would you want?
The volume... I don't know, because the volume... I think it needs to not be in the herky-jerky fantasy world the whole time, the more I think about it. Because as fun as, you can't drag that out for that long. I don't think you could really get substance out of it for that long. I think it's interesting. I'm excited for it. I hope they do well, but I don't think they could. I don't want to stretch it out for the entire time. I kind of really wouldn't mind if they actually go back and address their issues with Ruby's leadership, because I do like her as being a Captain America type character, but I also liked how in the MCU that they did have, like, Civil War, they had in other places, they had, like, people disagreeing with Captain America, even if Captain America, in my opinion, was right most of the time, So I'm fine with that. And what I definitely don't want is I don't want them adding extra flaws into Ruby's character that aren't there. Them disagreeing with her is not the same thing as her having some flaws. You know what I mean? I'd rather them disagree with her and her still basically be right. That's what I would rather have. I really don't want her to have, like, a complete fucking crisis, because that doesn't fucking make sense for her character. Like, again, it was bad enough when they did to Nora, and I'm still pissed about that. But really, I don't honestly give a fuck at this point, because the show sucks. I would much rather... The reason I'm bringing that up is because God forbid they do that to Ruby, because that is more critical to the show if they add a bunch of, like, her being, oh, I don't know what to do anymore. Was I ever right? Like, that would be insufferable. It's, like I said, it's ruined Ren and Nora, and that's bad enough. Please don't fucking do that to the main fucking character of the show. And then all the other stuff is just details. I really don't know if we're going to get any of the other characters. I don't really care. We probably will a little bit. It's really, at this point, we've all grown up at this point. It's funny how much different, I've even noticed how different we're talking about this show now than we even did 2 years ago. Like, we're talking about so much big picture, like, introspective, character-driven things than we used to talk about in the past. Like, who cares about, like, what fucking, who lost the, we used to talk about these, who lost the weapon, who fucking, all this, who cares? Like, just make the character compelling, please, and don't fuck her up. The end.
So for me, I think one thing I hope the show, like, avoids, which I feel it's like a trap that they might, a landmine that they'll step on, is like, oh yeah, Ruby's, like, character, like, experiences, like, ego death or whatever. That's something I hope they avoid. Maybe like a mild vibe check, or even just like her understanding. It's like, oh, you could do something, but, like, the desired outcome may not happen, or other things could happen that you couldn't foresee. For the runtime, I think like 75% in the Hollow Earth, fairy tale land would be good. I do think it's not bad that we're just focusing on the 4 girls. I don't think they can stick with those 4 girls for the entire volume. So I would like that they get out, and I hope that they get something more out of them being in Alice in Wonderland, other than like, oh, they've got like a power up, or someone crafted them a weapon, or or like maybe that's where the relic of choice is, and they get that. Okay, I'd be fine with that, but that's about it. So I think for the volume to be good, like 75% of time in Alice in Wonderland, and then it depends on how they handle, like, if they're gonna do a time skip, like, do they just like reappear like outside of the portal or somewhere random, or like in Vale somewhere? So like that's all like up in the air. So that's basically what I'm saying too. It's like don't put like RWBY through like the ego death ball squishing machine, and get like they should get something out of it other than like oh, we got like a shiny new weapon or like something along those lines. But yeah, that's it for me.
I want RWBY to curse.
Terrible.
I just don't know what I don't know what they could do with RWBY that would be surprising and fitting at the same time. And we do have 3 other characters in the team. They are in the trailer. They're going to be doing their own thing to meet back up. There's a image that someone posted on Twitter where it looked like Weiss, Blake, and Yang were all tinified and in RWBY's cloak. I want this to be creative. I want this to be really bizarre when they're in Wonderland stuff, and I want it to be like maybe half the volume, and we get that juxtaposition between Wonderland and the real world. Like maybe cut to Rain and Nora and Winter and Vacuo. I'm trying to think of who else is even in Vacuo. Like no one we really care about, honestly.
Yeah, Winter's there, Oscar's there.
Oh, that's right, Oscar.
You said people
Hey,
we care
might
about.
not have.
Emerald's there. I care about Emerald.
There we go.
Yeah. But maybe we'll get them. My expectation is that it will be the entire volume, and it's going to be draining in all the same ways that Ice Queendom ended up being draining. I hope I'm wrong. I don't, but I think that's what's going to happen. And I was only half joking when I said I wanted RWBY to curse. I want her to actually like emote, like have a scene where she rants a little bit or like verbally struggles with everything that's been going on and the role she played in having all this stuff happen, even though she was in the right, even though like it's not her fault things went the way they did. It would still be cool for her character to hold herself responsible, whether she's actually responsible or whether other characters hold her responsible or not. Like give her that neurotic Peter Parker complex, I guess, is what I'm asking. Yeah, I want them to do something interesting with RWBY because, like I said at the outset, she was a fully fleshed out character right out the gate. She was quirky and interesting and driven in a way the other cast members weren't, and then the plot just never really did anything with her.
Yeah.
Oh, I want to add something real quick because this came into my mind. Summer should stay dead. She's not just, banished to the Shadow Realm.
Yeah, don't bring back Summer. That would be so cheap.
I mean,
all right, that's it. I'm done.
Yeah. My turn?
Yes.
Okay. So first of all, quick question. Did we talk about Jean at all before I showed up, or
No?
Okay.
No,
So,
I mean we speculate that that's what the armored dude in the trailer is. Other than that,
Okay.
He's nowhere to be seen, but he's down
Yeah.
there somewhere because he fell too.
Right, yeah. Okay, so yeah, because I'm figuring he's either the armor dude that we saw, shrouded in flames, or he's that weird king guy, like he got mutated or something like that, because he's got the blonde hair, but like the red eyes, so I'm wondering if that could be him, but I don't know. But so, okay, because that kind of goes into my predictions, which is kind of the prediction that I've had for years now. I don't know if I've ever talked about it, but basically my prediction is essentially that Ruby finds out about Penny. She finds out what happened, and kind of starts to fall into a little bit of despair. Not super dramatic, and it doesn't. It probably shouldn't last very long, like an episode, maybe 2 episodes. So not like the Nora and Ren thing, where it's like, okay, I'm gonna run off now and be a completely different person. It's more just like a couple episodes of her feeling down and guilty and wondering if she did the right thing, if it was worth it, and questioning it. And ultimately, it will come out as a flat arc where she accepts that she did most of it right. Maybe she can acknowledge that I probably should have been more honest with Ironwood at first, but other than that, she acknowledges that she, did the best that she could, and that she needs to live with what she did. And this is paralleled by, and I would say that this is kind of paralleled by her seeing Jean, who has either become like, this Black Knight character who's, going on a rampage, maybe going after Neo, trying to kill her because he thinks he's, that's what he is, or he becomes like this, creepy like king figure. I don't know. But like Ruby basically has to pull Jean out and herself out of it to basically say, you and I, we did the best that we could. We did what we felt like we had to, and that's what's important, and that's what we kind of need to accept there. And I would say that I would want their time in this Wonderland thing to last at most 8 out of the 10 episodes at most, and then they get back. Also, I honestly kind of want Neo to either die or stay in this world, because I do not want her. They do not need more allies at this point, and she's not that interesting. I don't care what the book did with her. I don't even really. I know it like gave her DID or something like that, but I don't really care, and so I don't really care what happens to her after this volume. Like, she can be like an arc villain or something, but that's more or less kind of what I'm hoping for. Again, I don't want Ruby's whole questioning of herself to last too long, but give her a little bit of time. And yes, ultimately it's a flat arc, but it's at least a flat arc with, conflict, and with her having to kind of question herself, even if she ultimately decides that, yes, I was right. I think it's at least questioning herself. So that's more or less what I'm hoping for. So.
Hey, what exactly is DID? I don't know what that is.
Dissociative identity orders. It's like the whole multiple personalities thing, and that's apparently the book gave Neo that.
Oh, okay. She's mute. Why are you going to give multiple personalities to a mute? Give it to somebody who can actually say different stuff.
To explain why she seems like such a psycho in episodes 2 and 3, and to explain why she might not be so bad, so maybe we can bring her back as a good guy or something. It's dumb, and it doesn't make any sense, and it would be terrible, so just kill her.
I mean, yeah.
They already brought Emerald to the good side. That was enough. I predicted that since Volume 3.
Everybody did.
Yeah, Neo just needs to exit stage left and never be seen again.
There was never of that coming. See, at least I know some people didn't love Emerald becoming like switching sides, kind of, but again, they laid that groundwork since fucking Volume 2 or 3 when they had her questioning Cinder's like lack of compassion for all the people she was killing. So we knew that was.
And admittedly, everybody did see that coming, and yet they still somehow rushed it. So, don't expect there to be anything that you can predict and still accurately come out with here. And stemming off of
Yeah.
that, I'll go ahead and make my predictions, or rather, refuse to make any predictions. Yeah, I'm dumping your entire frame. I'm about to blow y'all's minds. I'm completely dismantling the previous conceptions you all had. Okay? It's not going to be, like I said before, making predictions about this show is almost entirely worthless. There's pretty much no predictability about that outside of a couple of very key things that shouldn't be the things that are predictable. In terms of that, though, I think that what I am going to do and what I would suggest all of us do is sort of watch this in a different manner that has been kind of expounded upon here in this little podcast of not looking at the trees and missing the whole forest. I think we do definitely need to, instead of focusing on plot minutia as much as we have previously, start taking a really extremely critical lens to the entire whole of the show and trying to parse out what exactly are the themes here? What exactly are they getting wrong there? Because yes, it is possible to have a thematically flawed show, as evidenced by RWBY. And I think if we start going in that direction a little bit more, this we might just be able to uncover some stuff we hadn't thought of before about this thing, and perhaps even be able to parse out why it is that they made some of the plot decisions they made. So, little food for thought there if you want to stew on that for a little while. And I might just actually go back and rewatch the rest of them with that kind of different view.
That's a great
Fair
point,
enough.
Coop, because that's a really fucking
I
good
mean,
point. That's a really fucking good point because the more I think about it, like the more I realize, like, does this show even have like a real theme? Like they always say, like the theme is like keep moving forward. But I'm older now. Like this show is almost 10 years old now, right? And we've done this podcast for what, 6, 7 years now, something like that.
Yep.
Okay, we've grown up. The writers, honestly, at this point, should have grown up enough to realize that's a fucking stupid theme. Because once you go through your 20s and get into your 30s, and even in your 20s, you can realize keep moving forward is a stupid philosophy to live by.
It's
Because
a
I tried to do that in a job that I fucking hated. And during the course of my podcast, I went from that job that I hated, tried some other stuff, went back to school, got another degree, and now I'm in a job that I actually really like. So keep moving forward is fucking stupid. That don't do that. That's a terrible idea. If you're not happy, if something's not going well, you need to reevaluate your entire life and you need to fucking fix shit or change shit or take a risk or whatever because you're not happy. If you're not happy, then you got to do something about it. So
well,
keep
yeah.
moving forward is really dumb. It's a terrible idea.
I mean, that's
I mean, I think you moved forward by moving on to a different job and a better job, and by bettering yourself. Isn't that kind of what that would mean to me? So,
well. Now,
but
I get what you're
Moving
I get
forward,
what
their
you're
keep
saying,
moving
dude.
forward is just like keep your head down and keep going, and everything will be all right.
That's
eh,
I mean, that is, dude's correct. That is sort of a common misconception about the application of Stoicism, which is that isn't how you should use it at all. Like, and constant maintenance of the Stoic philosophy, I would say, is an improper application of it. I think you should only use Stoicism in situations in which you absolutely do not have any control. And I think you should learn to recognize the situations in which you do have control and not just assume that you don't automatically in like a lot of cases. There's like a you keep moving forward is a good mentality to have when you're on like an 18-mile hike with like a 70 fucking pound pack on your back. It's not something that you keep around on you all the time. It's a good tool to have in the belt. It's not useful for every purpose. Like a lot of times you do have to adapt, improvise, adapt, overcome. These are the two dichotomous ideals that need to be sort of interwoven with each other to be a proper Marine and thus a proper human being, if I have to say so myself.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I need to look up, I don't know, kind of get the whole quote and the whole idea from Monty there and figure out what exactly that, what exactly he meant when he said that and stuff like that, because, yeah, I'm trying to figure that out. But I don't know. In terms of, I mean, things that I've noticed with RWBY and stuff like that, there's just the fact that, like, there's the classic whole idea of fairy tales and stuff like that, and they're basing all these characters off of fairy tale characters, and it kind of feels, in a lot of ways, like they don't really know. I don't know. It kind of feels like, in a lot of ways, that they maybe have, like, their view of fairy tales is kind of that childish, everything works out in the end, and not kind of, I don't know, rather than the way that I've learned about fairy tales in studying storytelling and stuff like that, which is the idea that, which is more of the, the view of fairy tales, the way that Samwise Gamgee talks about them. They're full of darkness and danger, and you don't always want to know the end because you're not always sure how things can, get better after all the bad stuff happens. So, so that might be an interesting thing to look at and see if they really get that, which I don't think they do. But yeah,
I mean, that's the thing about fairy tales, is that the reason for the existence of fairy tales is very kind of like in opposition, I think, to how RWBY is kind of come up with. RWBY kind of it's a story that exists for its own sake, whereas the fairy tale has a
moral.
it's the fairy tale is a device that exists purely for those outside of it. So, oddly enough, that's a really striking sort of dichotomy right there too. If you wanted to point out something that's not really thematically fitting with RWBY.
Or something they got wrong. Yeah. Is there anything else we wanted to talk about, or?
No, I think that's about it. Now we just gotta get ready to go on this wild ride of the new season. Only plugs that I have is probably it'll be a link to join the Discord server somewhere.
Yeah, I usually have that in the description.
Oh yeah, you should also buy Media's book. He's a published author now.
The Hellfire Brats.
Yeah.
Book 1 of Agents of Night Watch, which half the people here kind of helped me put together.
I think, in a way, the entire group here helped you put it together subliminally.
I will say there's something in book 3 that I'm actually working on right now.
Was it the cuckolding?
I'll say it came from a meme that High Powered shared like 3 years ago.
Oh god, that was a long time ago. I wouldn't even know what meme it was, what even memes I was sharing.
You know what it is. You already said it.
Oh.
But yeah, just
brown anime girls.
Oh, I mean, that too. That is also going to be in book 3. Actually, wow, I didn't even think about that one.
Beautiful. We need more ethnically ambiguous girls with guns, so that I can live out my gunsmith cat's fantasies.
Yes, the tan, athletic, tomboyish female enters into my office workspace. I take a hit on my jewel. It's like, hey, sweet cheeks, what can I do for you? And then the tomboy draws her gun and shoots you because that was considered sexual harassment, and she gets away with it.
But yeah, the only thing I really want to plug is my book. That is where a lot of my energy is being directed towards now. Hellfire Brats. It's available now. Nephilim Strain is coming out probably in a few months, probably like sometime this summer. And then book 3 I'm also aiming to have come out later this year. probably like November, December of this year is when I'm shooting for book 3 to come out. I'm hoping to have like 2 books come out every year for the next couple of years while I hammer out this franchise I have planned. And like, comment, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We'll continue these podcasts and other YouTube projects that I, already have in the works or am already like mostly done with. Quint Breakdown comes to mind. I only got 3 more of those to do before it's just done. But yeah, that's about it.
Yes, join us on the Tehachapi Loop, the 1.17 kilometer long spiral built in 1876 on the Union Pacific Railroad in Kern County, California. See the aerial footage of this constant winding train going around and around as we continue to speak on what is RWBY.